Increased efficiency and competitiveness in agriculture. Enhanced national food security. New employment opportunities. Expanded agricultural production. These are but a few of St. Lucia's broad objectives for agriculture based on the country's 2009 to 2015 agricultural policy. Agriculture plays a major role in the economies of the Windward Islands, namely St. Lucia, Dominica, St. Vincent, and Grenada. Its role in St. Lucia, however, has said to be in decline in the last couple of years, a state that can be directly attributed to the decline of the banana industry and its trade with the European Union. Agriculture represents 5% of St. Lucia's GDP and 21% of employment in the last 5 years, with banana production as the chief driver. The National Dialogue on Agriculture came out of a 2011 German Metrology Institute, or PTB, project entitled The Development of Tools for the Strengthening of a Custom-Oriented, Coordinated Quality Infrastructure in Latin America and the Caribbean. The funding has been provided through the German government and a mechanism called the German Cooperation, with the objective of strengthening the demand orientation of quality infrastructure institutions like the region's bureaus of standards. In addition, the dialogue is expected to begin a continuous communication, if one does not already exist, between the quality infrastructure organizations, the Ministry of Agriculture, and the private sector, which is expected to be maintained even after the dialogue ends. Hence, St. Lucia's National Dialogue. The National Dialogue is an intense working session which begins with a planning meeting between the consultant or facilitator and those individuals from the National Standards Bureau and government and quasi-governmental agencies who will lead the respective teams through the discussions and group sessions. In this case, it was the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards, SLBS, and department heads from the Ministry of Agriculture in the country, which was invested in the outcomes and collaborated with the SLBS in conducting the exercise.
The importance of this dialogue to St. Lucia cannot be understated. It is absolutely necessary that for the sustainability and the enhancement of our agricultural sector, that we need to come to an understanding of exactly what the needs are for the sector to ensure the production of quality and safe food for consumers and also for potential exports. Today's interaction, we anticipate to be very interactive. To do so, we have the assistance from Ms. Julianne Lardart from Antigua, who will be our facilitator for the technical aspects of today's workshop. So I am encouraging all of us to actively participate to meet the objective at the end of today to develop a draft action plan for a quality infrastructure for the agricultural sector.
The realities of existing markets, including growing requirements, standards, and certification, are generally viewed in the context of artisanal genesis for earning a livelihood from agriculture. As a consumer, we can appreciate the need for assurance that the product we consume and use are safe. The competence to deliver that assurance is and will continue to be a defining element of agriculture development and the policies and plans that will shape it. The ability to provide that assurance to the consumer, however, require the cooperation and collaboration of a number of actors. The way in which they work and the effectiveness in producing assurance of quality of products and services is an important area for work in building innovative, effective, and profitable system for enterprise development. This is the motivation for today's dialogue and the focus on building the national quality infrastructure for St. Lucia.
It is critical for us to successfully facilitate business linkages and build brand awareness of St. Lucia products with quality, competitive prices, which meets international standards. In this regard, all the agencies under the Ministry of Commerce, Business Development, Investment and Consumer Affairs have been playing critical roles in the development of brand St. Lucia. The role of the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards is to facilitate the development of our national quality infrastructure, as well as to ensure that our companies meet and adhere to international standards. We are all aware that compliance with international standards is a prerequisite for entry into international markets. Moreover, maximizing on the opportunities of business linkages cannot be overstated, as businesses must meet the critical requirements to trade across borders. The Ministry's support to developing our national quality infrastructure is unwavering. The Ministry of Commerce and its allied agencies, the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards, as well as the Trade Export Promotion Agency, the TEPA, will continue to promote the development of the necessary quality infrastructure for improved products and service standards.
The issue of standards, as I'm sure you know, while it is not new, is very critical. With the loss of preferential market access in the UK in the 1990s, our banana farmers found that they had to make adjustments if we had to remain in the market and continue to export. Suddenly, there was global gap, followed by Europe gap, and finally, fair trade. Contrary to the expectations of some and the doubts that were widely expressed, our farmers stepped up to the plate and they successfully implemented all of these standards. They obtained the certification that was required, and we continue to export bananas to the UK up to this day. The Ministry of Agriculture has always been and continues to be in the forefront, leading the charge towards the implementation of standards in the agriculture and fisheries subsectors. For example, under the EU-funded BAM project, the retrofitting and refurbishment of agro-processing infrastructure to meet international standards is currently being undertaken. A new agricultural diagnostic lab is also to be constructed, and it is important to note that we are constructing this new lab with the intention to provide adequate space for housing the Bureau's Metrology lab. In addition, we intend to pursue the accreditation of those aspects of the lab's work that are important for the certification of agricultural or fisheries products. We are determined to ensure that the new lab plays a very important role in the national quality infrastructure. Over the last 10 to 15 years, again, as I said, we've been working very hard to develop standards imposed upon us, and most of them are good. But we have another reality. The reality is that because of information technology, the platforms have been equalized. And so the reason for setting standards is no longer simply because somebody tells us to do it, but based on information that all of us have in our hands every single day, we know that it's important to do it.
So we've heard the presentations which have put what we're here for into context, and what we're going to do for the next 45 minutes or 40 minutes is to break out into 4 groups to discuss what are the needs of agriculture.
The intended outcome is for improved and better access to coordinated quality infrastructure services such as standards, metrology, accreditation and conformity assessment, as well as certification to aid the sector.
What we have is that we group them. Like the first question, the recommendations. Okay? Now during the first question we have consistent quality and supply. It's not today you have a nice. Any other question? What needs to be done? must have at least a measuring unit. Measure and stuff. You should be able to test your products. Your products have to be certified.
If you have a fertilizer that says 10, 10, 25, you need to make sure that your lab can test the fertilizer to make sure that whatever ratio that is in it, that is what you're getting. For the inorganics, you need to be able to get the lab to test what is in the inorganic fertilizer, because now you might have people that want to back their inorganic fertilizer and say, so we need to be able to test this fertilizer. So you need the lab should be able to test, for example, the leaf or the carrot, whatever produce, find out what is if there is any residue of chemical on that product and what level it is at, whether it is going to affect human consumption or not.
Within the fishery sector, there is infrastructure. Right? We have the St. Lucia Fish Marketing Corporation and other facilities around the island, fish landing sites. But the building itself is not all. It has to perform the intended function. And as we see another card there saying HACCP, right? Hazard analysis critical control points. But if the layout is not proper, it defeats the purpose. The value chain or the process must be quality at all times. And that speaks to that, the improved quality culture, right? And that also speaks to the public.
Started to the second one, where we did a standard for feed. National standard for feed, to these for livestock, our chickens. And along the same line, there's need for some standards in our training, that our farmers, as well as our farm workers, can use some training that we use the same feed, especially for livestock, small ruminants, with a view of trying to get the same carcass quality. That if a farmer feeds a sheep or a goat with, say, potato slips, and then somebody else feeds them with some grass, that you may have a different texture of the meat. And with a view to addressing the demand of the tourism industry, we would like to have a carcass quality that is consistent.
At the end of the discussions and feedback sessions is the compilation of the action plan. This step represents the culmination of a long day's work to bridge the gap between the demands of the sector and the quality infrastructure services necessary for its development.
Training first. Alright, so we're going to put training. And on the training, we talked about officers, processors, farmers, fishers,
And lab technician.
and lab technicians. Training, getting equipment, and what else?
At the end of this dialogue, it is up to the country to take the action plan developed and formulate its own next steps to meet the demands that would have been identified by the agricultural sector to inevitably strengthen their production and export capacities. The participation in St. Lucia was wide, varied, and invaluable. The dialogue, informative for the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards, which will lead the next charge for the next steps. And as it ended, it was with a feeling of progress and of hope for what is yet to come.